Hi everyone, I'm Vesna Dokmanovich, nurse practitioner and metabolic health clinician. Today I want to talk about something that lies underneath almost every chronic disease we see today, insulin resistance. And I also want to share a deeply personal story about my father's health transformation at the age of 81. What is insulin and why is it important? Insulin is a hormone made by your pancreas. One of its jobs is to bring blood sugar into the cells after eating. The cells use the sugar or glucose for energy. Insulin has many other important functions in the body. It's a growth hormone. It regulates fat storage, muscle building, cellular healing, electrolyte balance, appetite, and satiety. We're going to discuss its role with blood sugar, fat storage, and appetite regulation. In a healthy body, insulin rises after a meal and then falls back down. It is the key that unlocks the door to the cell to let glucose into the cells to be used for energy. If there is more glucose than needed, insulin tells the cell to store it as fat. We now know that insulin resistance is the single most common health disorder in the world. For most people today, insulin truly never goes low, and this chronically elevated insulin is a problem that underlies so many other health problems. The food and drinks that people consume today have a high sugar content or are made of carbohydrates that are easily converted to glucose in the body. With frequent eating of these foods, blood sugar is constantly elevated, and as a result, insulin is elevated. The cells become packed with glucose and can't use it all up before there is another sugary meal. As a result, the cell becomes stuffed with glucose and less responsive to insulin. That glucose that isn't used is stored as fat. Glucose and insulin are trapped outside of the cell, and this is why we become overweight and sick. Insulin is not just a blood sugar hormone. It's a fat storage hormone, a growth hormone, and a switch that determines whether your body burns fat or stores it. When insulin stays high, you store fat and can't burn your own fat. That fat starts to leak out of the cell and causes inflammation. Hunger increases because insulin depresses the satiety hormones leptin and ghrelin after meals. Energy crashes become normal. Fat starts accumulating in your liver and pancreas. Triglycerides become high, HDL drops. You can't lose weight or reverse disease until insulin comes down. We don't know that insulin is high because primary care providers do not measure insulin and have not been taught how to interpret it. We're taught to measure the fasting glucose and A1C levels. Insulin resistance happens 10 to 20 years before the blood sugar numbers get high enough to indicate disease. We now know that insulin resistance sits underneath type 2 diabetes, obesity, hypertension, fatty liver, fatty pancreas, polycystic ovary syndrome, sleep apnea, neuropathy, which is nerve damage, kidney disease, dementias, cardiovascular disease, chronic inflammation, some cancers like breast cancer, pancreas, prostate, colorectal, endometrial, liver, kidney, and ovarian cancers are all linked to insulin resistance, and some mental illnesses like anxiety and depression. And I want to pause here to share my father's story because it's the perfect example of how insulin underlies so many conditions. My father is 81 years old. He had lived with type 2 diabetes for 40 years. He also had hypertension, which is high blood pressure, fatty pancreas and liver, neuropathy, which is nerve damage, nephropathy, which is kidney disease, and high cholesterol. He was taking 2 diabetes medications, 2 medications for his blood pressure and kidneys, and Lipitor for cholesterol. My dad ate what he thought was a healthy diet. He is Eastern European, so most of the food was homemade, but being born during World War II, bread was a staple and he ate bread almost every night. He thought juice was healthy. He also liked to snack after dinner and would pick processed food items like potato chips. Like everyone, he liked his desserts. He decided to try a carnivore diet like I was doing. So for 90 days, he ate 5 eggs for breakfast with butter and fatty cuts of meat for his dinner at 4 p.m. He only ate twice because the high fat content made him feel satisfied. This is a very restrictive diet and not always necessary to reverse disease, but it's what he wanted to try. The results were amazing. He went to his nurse practitioner after having his blood work done after those 90 days, and he managed to reverse his diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney disease, fatty pancreas, and liver. He turned his cholesterol into the light, fluffy LDL particles instead of the dense particles that accumulate in blood vessels and cause disease. He also got the feeling back in his feet, reversing the nerve damage that he had. He cured himself of 8 chronic conditions and he came off of all 5 of his medications. The only thing he takes now is an aspirin. This isn't magic. This is what happens when you lower insulin. The body finally gets to heal. What's driving insulin resistance? It's not genetics, it's our modern eating pattern. There are 3 major drivers. Number 1 is highly processed, sugary carbohydrate meals. Most people are living on cereal, sandwiches, pasta, rice, and snacks. This keeps insulin high and blood sugar high from morning until night. Number 2 is the frequent eating. We're told to eat 3 meals and 3 snacks. That advice has created the perfect conditions for insulin resistance. It's not just what you eat, but how often you eat. And number 3, processed seed oils. I haven't talked about these much, but will in a later podcast. These oils worsen inflammation and disrupt insulin signaling. The result? A body that is constantly in fat storage mode, never allowed to burn fat or repair itself. The reason low carb works is insulin. Carbohydrates raise insulin the most and the fastest, especially sugar and refined starch. Protein does stimulate insulin, but in a controlled and appropriate way. Protein also raises glucagon, which balances insulin and allows blood sugar to remain stable. Fat on its own has very minimal effect on insulin, so it doesn't stimulate its release. This is why fat does not spike blood sugar and helps you stay full longer. When meals are built around adequate protein, healthy fats, and minimal refined carbs, insulin levels stay low and stable. And low insulin allows your body to burn stored fat, stabilize blood sugar, reduce hunger, lower inflammation, and restore metabolic flexibility. This is why you feel better, this is why medications go down, and this is why weight loss stops feeling like a battle. It's not willpower, it's physiology. This is where the science is incredibly strong. It's not new or fringe. When you reduce carbohydrates and allow time between meals, insulin levels fall and the body shifts from fat storage mode to fat burning. We see this clearly in clinical trials. The Virta Health Trial 2017 to 2019 published with 2-year outcomes. Over 60% of participants reversed type 2 diabetes. Insulin levels dropped significantly. Most patients reduced or eliminated diabetes medications, including insulin. The DIRECT trial in the UK, 2018 to 2020, nearly half of the participants achieved diabetes remission at 1 year. Remission was directly tied to lowering insulin and liver fat. Ben Bikman's metabolic research from 2010 until present shows that chronically elevated insulin drives mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, and impaired fat burning. He explains this beautifully in his book, Why We Get Sick, which I highly recommend. Jason Fung's clinical fasting data 2015 to present demonstrates that when insulin is lowered consistently, metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes improve in a predictable, measurable way. His books, The Obesity Code and The Diabetes Code, are truly transformational. This isn't opinion, it's reproducible human physiology. If you're struggling with weight, fatigue, high blood pressure, diabetes, or chronic inflammation, it's not your fault. We've been given the wrong advice. Your body is reacting to a modern food environment that keeps insulin high all day long. But there is a clear path forward. I've seen it in my patients, I've seen it in myself and my own family. And if my father at the age of 81, after 40 years of disease, can reverse everything in just 90 days, then you can too. If you'd like more support or want to work with me through my virtual clinic, you can find the link below and the link to my school community where we support each other with this life-changing transition, and it's free. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where I discuss the effects of insulin on causing the different diseases in a little more depth.